recording while he powders his nose.
Ready, rock?
And week 12 begins of the CWE video podcast. We're supposed to be joined by Playboy Will Damon today, but
You know,
he's doing what he does and he doesn't show up. So I went up and down main streets, stopped in at the Yale, stopped in at the Suds Room, stopped in at the Northern, and there was Kevy Chevy looking for something to do. He called up Stefan Epic, and we're here doing the CWE video podcast.
I think Will Damon has like 15 kids, does he not?
Yeah, I just ran into him at the mall yesterday, actually, and he says he's now got a lady with some kids.
Wow. And one on the way.
Oh, and one on the way.
Is one on the way?
Oh.
Sorry about that.
So you're the first tag team to join us on the podcast.
How disappointing for you.
Two men I'm very familiar with. One was my former tag team partner, who I then did battle with quite a few times against
Shocking,
Kevy
huh?
Chevy. And then another tag team specialist, Anderson Tyson Moore.
Yeah, me and Chevy went at it a few times at TLC match.
Moral of the story is we're all the shits and we need somebody else to carry us, so we spend a lot of our time in tag teams.
And sometimes we switched it up and depended on each other to carry each other.
Exactly.
Tag teams.
So, a lot going on in the week of professional wrestling. Finally, the trigger was pulled. Roman Reigns won the heavyweight championship on Raw last night. It's been held off. They've been trying to get the fans behind him, and they finally did it on Raw after he got screwed at the pay-per-view. What's everyone's thoughts on the shotgun booking at Raw last night?
I think it's like I think with the ratings being down, I think it was more just try to boost the ratings, try to hold it off to Raw. Bringing Vince McMahon on live there, I think it boosted the ratings by 30% or something like that. I think with the ratings being down, it's the way to we'll try to get something going. And I love it that they're doing this. And it's actually a way to get the ratings boosted up to get people to watch Roman Reigns win the title.
Well, I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed Vince McMahon kicking Roman Reigns with his dick. That was kind of that was a very entertaining segment of the show.
My son asked why a 97-year-old man kicked another man in the dick.
What was your answer?
I didn't have it.
No. It's professional wrestling. It's professional.
Dad, that guy that kicked the other guy in the balls is like 97 years old.
What's he doing?
See, they want the ratings to go up. I think they just need to have 3 hours of Vince McMahon on commentary.
Punting people in the dick.
Or just anything, like anything Vince McMahon. It should just be Vince McMahon on Raw. Or just clips of him commentating from 1995. I tune in every Monday night to watch that.
It's been how long since he's been on there? Like a couple of years, a year or something like that. He's been on TV, so
Yeah, I think it's been waiting for a
and just
while.
boosted up ratings more than these guys are doing now.
So we've been talking about it the last few weeks on the podcast, like what's the big WrestleMania main event going to be? We were assuming it was going to be Roman Reigns finally getting his opportunity at WrestleMania. He's now won the championship going into WrestleMania, so what does that leave for the big main event now?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I still think Triple H and him are going to do something at Mania. I think
Is that the main event match, do you think?
Possibly. They're kind of building that way with the whole kind of like Daniel Bryan type angle, them trying to screw him over or the Authority, but I don't know, like, could Triple H draw one more time? Go win the Rumble or something? Just get his way in there?
Maybe Vince versus Roman Reigns' dick.
That would be great at WrestleMania.
A Rochambeau?
Yeah, but like Vince McMahon goes Vince McMahon comes out, but his dick eliminates the last person in the Rumble. So they think Roman Reigns wins it, or Vince McMahon wins it, but he doesn't. His dick wins it, and he goes on and faces Roman Reigns.
So they just have like a sword fight at WrestleMania? That's what happened?
Dicks are quite popular in wrestling today.
Yeah.
Dick what?
Dick
Dick
Blood.
Blood.
Dick Blood's got a lot of stars in 2015.
Blazing Dick.
Other controversy that's, I don't know if it's controversy, but something that went viral in the last week or two is Joey Ryan's dick.
Oh yeah, that's right.
In Japan, he had a test of strength with a fellow competitor, and his dick won. And of course, this brought everybody out of the woodshed with their opinion on this isn't professional wrestling, or it's fine, it's funny. What's your take on that kind of entertainment in today's professional wrestling world? Is it acceptable, or is it too much?
Fuck yeah, it's acceptable. It's fucking wrestling. It's professional wrestling. People don't take this shit seriously. I don't take this shit seriously. Why can't a guy's dick win something?
Yeah.
Like DDT is famous for having like really weird shit go on. Like El Generico fought a man in a campground, and like Mick Hammy, who was like it was a little junior guy, used to carry a ladder to the ring. His ladder won a title. Like, how is Joey Ryan's penis like drawing so much controversy? Who cares? It's wrestling.
Well, the most vocal, of course, was
His dick lips.
the most vocal person about it was Jim Cornette, who's usually very vocal about anything that's kind of more modern in terms of that entertainment style. My take on it now, it's professional wrestling, it's 2015. Just like there's different genres of movies, there's different genres of wrestling at this point. You know, you have WWE, that's your entertainment style of wrestling. You have your Ring of Honor, that's your legitimate sports style professional wrestling. You have CWE, that who knows what that is. We're still trying to figure that out. You got New Brand Wrestling, which is the best kind of wrestling.
Is that still a thing? It's still a thing.
Whose was that again?
That was like Louis and Omar, the Mass Messenger.
Walter
And Walter Shep. Oh, originally Walter Shep. I wonder where the Mass Messenger is these days.
I
I don't know.
I still have heat with him because I pantsed him in front of an all-ages crowd.
The Mass
Is it
Messenger.
the Underwear too, or?
Yeah,
Was his balls out?
Yeah.
His
His
dick
balls?
His dick came out. What happened was I did it once. There was like we did these bar shows at like a Charleswood bar for a
Does
while.
Adam Knight still hate you for hanging shit on his door?
I don't know what you're talking about. We did a show like what was that Charleswood bar? The Dale or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
We did one there for like Wayne a couple times, and I pantsed the Mass Messenger in the Battle Royal, and I thought it was really funny.
Everybody thought it was funny.
And then
except for the Mass Messenger.
And then he did another show at the Salvation Army, and it was like a battle royal or something, and he was just like walking around the ring like the entire show in his gimmick, like eating pizza. So when I was on my way to the battle royal, he was like standing in front of me, so I like pulled his sweatpants and his underwear, and his like balls were exposed to children. So he got like really hot. So I went in the Rumble. I wish there was tape of this because he's trying to fight me, but he can't physically get in the ring to get me. So he's like trying to grab my foot from underneath the bottom rope. So then I would just like walk to the other side of the ring, and then he would like jog to the other side, and he kept trying to grab me. And then when he realized that wasn't working, he got on the microphone, and I think I'm the first person in the history of professional wrestling to be disqualified from a battle royal because he said I was disqualified for pulling.
Mass Messenger?
Mass Messenger disqualified me. Yeah, he got on the microphone.
So the competitor in the match can disqualify another person?
He wasn't in the match.
I'd be fucking undefeated if that was possible.
He wasn't in the match. He was just like, I guess he was the authority figure, just walking around in his gimmick.
Like the commissioner or whatever.
Yeah.
Throwing his power.
So because I wouldn't get out of the ring, he disqualified me from the battle royal, to which I didn't listen. And then if I recall, I got eliminated, and then he tried to fight me. He like approached me in the aisleway and like grabbed me like he was gonna shoot. And then I think it was
Can you reach your face to hit you?
no. And then I think it was maybe Shea Madison came up behind him and pantsed him again.
I think that's I can remember that. It's wrestling.
Oh god.
Showing dicks.
Dixon. Mass Messenger.
Joey Ryan's dick is a popular discussion.
Yeah, so back to Joey Ryan. Like, there's a lot of people that see that and they think it's hilarious. Like, there's people that aren't wrestling fans that will watch that and go, that's really funny. So it might entice the casual person to watch wrestling. They might not get invested in WWE or Ring of Honor, but it's maybe a genre of wrestling that they'll be enticed to watch. Like, Jakara has a very niche audience where those fans probably don't care for different, maybe like all kinds of wrestling, but you need to be a very specific type of fan to enjoy that product because it completely blows the realm of reality with the style of wrestling they do. So are we in agreement like that's acceptable in today's age? And
I
people
think
just
it
need
is.
to grow with the times?
I think as Epic said, I think it's fucking wrestling. Like, we're not supposed to be politically correct. We're trying to like. I think it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I think it was so funny.
I think a PC character in wrestling today would be fucking cool. Like they did in South Park with PC Principle.
PC Principle.
Where he's politically correct about stuff and being very uppity about
Who'd
shit.
be our PC wrestler?
Cyrus.
The network.
The Sombra.
Oh yeah, the network.
He had serious heat in ECW when they did that network shit. I mean, you'd have the whole arena screaming "Fuck you, Cyrus" the whole time he'd be in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess the other thing going on this week, NXT is touring Europe and they're selling out arenas. They're drawing better than a lot of the WWE shows do there. So that seems to be kind of the thing that's catching on. And I've been discussing that with people this week that it's kind of weird because everyone's been wanting an alternative to WWE and they now have it, but it's ran by WWE.
Yeah.
So it's like the cool thing to watch because they're a wrestling product. They're doing cool moves. It's more reality based opposed to entertainment based. Is it eventually going to catch up, or is it going to be a strong brand on its own, or is it going to be very much like?
I think people are going to get sick of it after a few years once it gets commercialized and it gets too popular, too big for its own britches. I think it's just going to be another WWE, and people are going to just be like, oh, okay, well, whatever.
You think that's what's going to happen? Like Vince is going to see its growth and try to, now take
No,
it
I
and make
think
it its
it'll
own?
just
Kill
grow.
itself?
Yeah, it'll kill itself.
I think if they stop the type of matches with the top indie guys and they start trying to do these WWE style matches and try to tone them down a little bit, I think that's when we'll see the decline. Which I wouldn't doubt it if it happens. If they try to tone them down a little bit, hey, you can't do this, 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 and this. Because apparently some of those guys from the main roster are pissed off because these guys are showing them down on NXT. So it would be a doubt if they start saying tone it down a little bit.
That's why I was kind of interested to kind of find out the logic behind their game plan with NXT, because a lot of the stuff they do, like guys are doing like crazy dives there, they're doing German suplexes, they're doing things you can't do on WWE TV. So I was always of the thinking, I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of like their own indie and independent. They're just going to, all right, this guy got hurt, let's just bring in the next indie darling. But now that they're running a touring schedule, those guys probably can't do that style every single night if they're on the road. So does that mean they're going to have to tone it down and lose what's kind of making it special?
I would think so, yeah. I think if they tone it down, they go to a WWE style match, and I think they're done. Then they'll kind of hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I concur.
Creebirds agree with me.
Creebirds agree.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our first break so we can pimp all the dates. You can see the Fabulous Cre Birds in action, and we'll come back and we'll chat their careers.
Don't worry.
That won't take long.
Careers of the Fabulous Cre Birds, the Career Birds. I don't even know where to start. It's been such an illustrious run.
Yeah, illustrious.
So me and you both kind of started around the same time. All four of us kind of did, thinking about it. I think you started like in 2002.
2001,
2002. I had my first match, beginning of 2003. You were like a few months before me.
I was like 3 weeks before you.
Yeah, and then Chevy was later that year.
2003 in June.
Yeah, it was December 2002.
And the three of us got our start through River City Wrestling.
River City Wrestling.
Some great fond memories of River City Wrestling.
Yeah.
So maybe both coming kind of from the same time, but you broke in around the same time. But Stefan and myself were underage, so you broke in when they went into Teddy Bob's. He was 18 plus, so we kind of got kayfabed and had to go work for Ernie, unfortunately. So maybe the two of you can kind of talk about how you kind of got that start with Wayne, because all three of us kind of got put in the ring well before we ever should have been. We weren't trained properly.
We had 2 days of training.
Yeah, we had no business being in the ring whatsoever, but that was just kind of the way it was back at that time, and we were lucky enough to be able to adapt and learn and carry on, but a lot of guys didn't, and that's why this city was full of shit for so long, because a lot of guys had that same bringing into the business we did, but they never applied themselves to get any better. So maybe talk about your time starting in professional wrestling.
So like when I was 13, it was the first time I got into a ring. I was 13, I went and trained with Ernie, trained with Royce, his tag team partner, former tag team partner. I trained with Robbie Royce
Current lover.
When I was 13 years old.
So you gotta be a good team,
And then I went for like a one-day tryout camp for the school because Paul Diamond was training at that time. And I went and trained for one day, and I was 13, and I had no fucking business near a wrestling ring at 13 years old. And then like I went for the one-day camp, and Ernie wanted like fucking like $3,000 or something. And I'm 13. Where am I gonna get $3,000?
Was anybody solid at this camp?
No, it was just me.
Oh, okay.
There was another guy that showed up, and Roy started taking bumps in the ring, and the guy left. He walked out, and then so about a year later, I'm 14, and Johnny Devine comes in. Johnny Devine's from here; his parents are here, so he was staying with his folks for a bit, and he decided to hold like a 2-day wrestling camp, like a fantasy camp. and like the winner would eventually go on and get a free training at the Heart
Was
Dungeon.
it through a local
No,
office?
it was just Divine was using Tony's ring at Don's school, and then I did a 2-day camp there, and then I started my uncle Dennis used to run Norquay Community Club. He still does, but he was running Norquay Community Club, and they'd had wrestling there, and I just started hanging out, like, cause my uncle, right? So hanging out, watching wrestling, and then I eventually got to talking, and I told Wayne that I had been trained by Johnny Divine, which I had been, but only for 2 days. So I was way more experienced and qualified to do anything than anybody on their crew. So
qualified a lot of guys then nowadays.
and then I just bullshitted my way through it, and then he threw me in the ring.
Who was it with?
My first match was me and Alpha Cintura.
Awesome.
What's his name? Chris Reed.
Chris Reed, yeah.
Chris Reed.
Radio personality now.
Yeah, against Madman Muir and Spanky, or Spanky, as Wayne called him. That was my first match, and I was 15.
We had met before that though, right? Like
Yeah, we
backyard
had
wrestling
fucking-
before our
we-
first matches.
Yeah, we used to hang out at Norquay.
Yeah.
In the backyard together when we were like 13, 14.
Right.
Yeah.
And Chevy, yourself?
I started training in Teddy Bob's with Big Cliff Corleone and Madman Muir.
Oh.
So that was interesting. And then my first match was like a Battle Royal. It wasn't really a match. I came to the ring under a hood as Johnny Molson. And yeah. And then I got knocked off the apron and I smashed a bunch of beer bottles and landed in the front row with some old lady, and she was losing her shit, and it was just a big...
My boy, you owe me beers. You get these beers, hurry up.
Give me these beers. You broke all my beers.
Earlier that year, because I started in January of '03, and I was like you guys, just training before the shows, got put in matches, and it's like the booker would change every like 2 weeks at Chalmers, and Madman Muir ended up being the booker at one point, and he like made it a mandatory policy. Everybody on the crew had to train with him prior to the show, or they weren't booked. So I just didn't show up.
Yeah, I
I don't
remember that.
train with that guy.
Yeah.
I like Eli, he's a nice guy, but personal hygiene wasn't one of his stronger points. So it was just awful getting in the ring with him because you didn't have access to a shower. It was going to be a long, brutal night. So you started at Teddy Bob's, and how'd your progression go from there? You just started working matches?
It was basically, we would train before the shows and shit like that, and sometimes we'd do Chalmers, and then we did a nightclub downtown on Portage. I think it was called The Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did a couple, and it was me and Vinny Valiant who were in the training class or whatever it was. So we would be paired up a lot when we were wrestling earlier on and stuff. So at first it was a lot of wrestling, basically Muir and Cliff. And they just beat me up and stuff, and just see what my durability was at, or how we could handle being beaten up, right? So they basically used to beat the crap out of me for about 5-6 months. And then I actually started wrestling in matches as Max Black with Vinny Valiant, and we would do these series of matches and stuff like that. But we were doing different stuff than everybody on the card. Like everybody would do the kick, punch, brawl, fucking barroom bullshit shit. And me and Vinny were doing like sequences and like lucha stuff, like dives to the floor and doing.
I remember you guys were like way ahead of your time.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of like stuff that
Like leaps and bounds about it.
Were you in the match where Vinny like had to go to the hospital because he broke his neck or almost broke his neck at the Avenue?
Because we were always doing stupid shit. We were trying to do better, like more like fucking like stuff that was way fucking different than everybody else was doing on the card. So we did a shooting star press one night. We were in the main event of that said card. So Vinny's like, oh, I think I can do the shooting star press. So he's just like, okay, well, all right, let's see if he can do it. And he did it. He did the shooting star press and landed on his feet. So we were like, okay, let's fucking do it in a match. So we did it in a match, and he went up, but I guess during the show the ropes got loose as they went on the card, and he went up, and he came down.
Like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, like basically like head first into the mat, boom, and he basically landed on top of me, a limp body. So he just kind of laid on top of me. I kind of held him on top of me, and we counted to 3, ding, 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 and then I kind of kicked him off me, but he was like limp. They fucking had to put him in a stretcher, like fucking brace his neck and shit.
He didn't break his neck, did he?
No, he didn't break it. He dummied himself pretty good on the cane.
Right.
That's fucking scary.
But but then, yeah.
I remember. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like even like you're talking about the craziest shit. Like you're like way ahead of your time back then too. And I think even now you're still taking some of the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like I don't understand how your body can take it. Like just the massive falls, and it's very like it tests you the way you can do. And I think well beyond your time, like you're able to take like the crazy, like I think you moonsaulted the last show and you fucking crash hard. Like I don't even want to take a regular bump nowadays. He's fucking.
He did the moonsault to the floor, and he said that was the first time he did it in like over 10 years.
Since
the time before he did that,
he
did it to me and Stefan when we were teaming, and it's on AWE pay-per-view or TV somewhere. So who knows where that's at? But he did a moonsault to the floor, and me and Stefan kind of like taped it.
Well, we didn't really like. Truth be told, we were too far. We were too far back.
Yeah.
And
I went up and.
And former CWE heavyweight champion AJ Sanchez was only there.
Yeah, he's a cat me all the
Took the whole thing.
And then you like get up and you're selling, you're like, oh my foot, my foot. So I remember doing commentary, like post-sport, and just like laughing. And then
I was laughing.
It's like,
Sorry,
just carelessly let you fall to the floor. You could have died laughing at you.
Yeah, the truth be told, like we make jokes that like we missed him, but we were just too far.
Yeah.
We were just too far out.
And at that time, I probably hadn't ever like caught too many guys. I was like 150 pounds.
I was talking about this with someone before. Like the four of us and a few other guys, we're the last generation before YouTube, before complete access to every kind of wrestling in the world. Like we still had to do like find tapes and buy tapes.
Oh, yeah, so we tape nights.
Yeah, we used to have to dig to find really good wrestling. We're like the last of a dying breed, for lack of a better term. Like if you look at like guys who came in like 2005 and on, those guys had YouTube. Those guys had like Ring of Honor was getting big at that point. Like we had to dig to find good shit.
So who did you like mainly like pick out for your kind of like who did you study the most out of all that?
Just a mix of guys. Like I watched a lot of Japanese wrestling, and like I don't really have a Japanese wrestling style, but like I really picked up on things like fire and emotion and selling.
You're the person that first introduced me to Japanese wrestling, like through your tapes.
Yeah. So like, there was a Japanese influence, but it wasn't necessarily like moveset it was more like how they throw their strikes, when they throw their strikes, how they sell the strikes. You know what I mean? As opposed to just taking a kick and like reaching up and putting my chin out, like the physical reaction of actually being kicked.
Yeah.
Watching things like that is what I really picked up on.
I remember at that time when we like watch tapes, it cost $40 for a Ring of Honor tape at Jabroni's.
Yeah.
It cost $40.
The same conversation I had with that person about the last before YouTube was we had to go to Jabroni's and buy a $40 Ring of Honor tape for like a really shitty dubbed Ring of Honor tape. You know.
I didn't get to see you like until you were working for a little while because you started at Teddy Bob's and there wasn't all ages shows. Then I think the first time I ever saw you wrestle was at Broadway Neighborhood Center. I had seen you before that, and this was at a time where there were so many shitty fucking guys, just awful guys that don't belong in the business. So here you come. I've never seen you before, so I just assume, oh, here's another shitty guy that RCW's produced that didn't go through any training. But I was immediately impressed because you were very athletic and agile for your size. You're doing really cool, innovative stuff. Not having somebody to actually like train you and kind of guide you on the right path through a normal system that guys are broken into the business with, how did you progress so quickly? Was that just through the natural talent, or did you find a veteran that helped you?
I was basically my first year there. I did all that wrestling with Madman Muir and them, and then going on to my second year, I wrestled for a couple of single shots out for Tony Condello, and I was doing I did like what the fuck did I do? I did Pine Creek I think one year, and then there was one show I went up for Tony and there was a car accident and fucking a bunch of people
I was on that
killed
show
and
too.
shit.
Yeah.
And then did that show got fucking shut down?
No,
right?
we worked the show.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
We worked it still. So, and
that was in Fairford.
Yeah, Fairford.
You were there too. You were there too because you and Sammy worked.
And Marius was there too.
Okay,
yeah.
Snack show.
I think at the time I worked Somber for like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And then, so anyways, I was doing like one-off shows for Tony, and then Tony asked me to come out on the Northern Tour, and that was only on my second year of wrestling. So I went out, and I went out and I was night after night I was wrestling Evil Eddie Watts, and he was and he was teaching me stuff like leaps and bounds ahead of what fucking I knew, right? So I just being a sponge, I was just like absorbing all this information that he's telling me. One night, I did something wrong during a match. He said I hooked him in a headlock. He shot me off for a shoulder tackle. He said shoulder tackle, fucking leap drop down something. So fucking hit the ropes. I come off and he's a stocky guy. So at this time I was 200 pounds, and I figured I was just like I would take the shoulder tackle and I would bump, right? So we fucking both come off and we do the big double shoulder tackle. We both hit the ground. And as soon as I land, immediately I look up at the fucking ceiling. I'm like, oh man. I go to get up, and he grabs me and he pulls me back down, and he just starts fucking laying it into me. Boom!
I remember all this too. I was at these shows,
Ropes hit me fucking boom, boom, boom. I fucking saw it. I get up. I'm like, yep, we'll never do that again. Fucking get up. Put a fucking knot on my. You had a big fucking knot on my head here.
Kevin was on baby deer legs.
I was on baby deer legs.
On ice.
Yeah.
I think it was such a different Chevy back then too than the Chevy we know now. Like Chevy know now is punch in the fucking mouth.
Yeah.
You piss them off. But when I first met you on that tour, you're very quiet. You're a lot of times you'd be by yourself.
Yeah.
He's just sleeping like we all see in the room. He's sleeping by himself, and it's just kind of weird when I see you now.
Yeah.
It's just I remember you just getting your ass kicked by
Oh
Watts
yeah.
a few times.
Like,
there,
yeah,
like,
and then
you can hear these fucking shots in the back.
Oh, yeah.
And to his thing, he never said a word. He just took it and just.
I said thank you. I asked him if I could do anything different, if I could change anything. How can I? And he said, "Don't fucking bump when you coming off."
Have a softer face next time.
We talked about that like on previous podcasts. Maybe you can kind of give some insight because that doesn't happen too much anymore now that a lot of veterans from like the old days are no longer working.
Yeah.
To you, was that like a legitimate benefit? Because now guys are like, if you beat them up, they fucking whine, they cry, but the way Eddie did it, probably,
was the fucking best way to do it. If you get a fucking licking when you do something wrong, it gets drilled into your head not to fucking do that again. Yeah. And once you learn it, you'll never fuck it up again because you remember the ass kicking you took, right? Because Eddie Watts was,
and it was probably stiff, but it wasn't dangerous.
No,
right?
it wasn't dangerous. It was just to let me know. It was just let me know not to do that.
I had Kerry Brown kick me one time and leave like boot laces across my chest. Yeah.
It was like
with those big fucking work boots.
Kerry Brown, I think I'll have a Kerry Brown story.
Yeah, it was like that anytime I still work like this to this day because of Kerry. He was such a believable heel. Like when I wrestled him, and I wrestled him often, when we'd go into the audience, he would legitimately kick the shit out of me. To the point I thought I fucked something up or he was hot at me. So afterwards I'd ask, like, did I do something wrong? And he was just very clear that when you're in front of the people and they're that close to you, you need to lay it in. You gotta stay tight. And he was so believable and so good at what he did. Like, as his opponent, knowing I'm working with him, I believed he was trying to kill me. That's good. Yeah. And that's important because a lot of guys will roll out of the ring, they'll go to a spot on the floor, and they're throwing these shitty kicks. And
that's what happened with me too with Kerry. Kerry kicked me on the floor one time. He's like, he told me beforehand, he's like, if we're in front of the people, I'm not like loosey-goosey with you. I'm gonna stay tight. And he punted me and he left bootlaces right across my chest.
He threw me in the portal potty and I got pissed off that I jumped up. We were actually in Saskatchewan doing a brawl like in their beer gardens at the university. So we're brawling. He's again beating the shit out of me. Throws me in the portal potty. And I'm like, okay, this is like my second year. I thought, okay, I'm gonna sit in here for a while and it's gonna happen. Next thing I know, this thing's getting pushed over. So I jump out, and I remember this when I jumped out. Carrie's face was just like legit pissed that I left that thing, and I got the ass kicking of a lifetime. to him though, after the morning after, he kicked me up to wake me up in the morning after being hungover and bought me breakfast the next morning. So much love for Kerry Brown.
Fucking great.
Kerry was amazing. I absolutely love him, man. He was just a great guy.
So like timeline wise, now we're kind of getting on the same track here. So 2003, 2004, the three of us are working, Broadway for Wayne. It just clicked to me. You ended up getting fired.
Yeah.
Everyone's been fired by Wayne at some point, but I remember it was like really dramatic for something. You threw tape or something?
Yeah, I took my wrist tape off after a match and I threw it into the crowd and I hit a kid in the face. And like he came to the back looking for me, and then he grabbed me by my shirt and pulled me outside. And I thought he was just like kind of fucking with me a little bit. He pulled me by my shirt and he grabbed me outside. He said, "Come with me." And he went out there. He's like, "Don't you ever fucking come back here." don't you ever come back here. And I was like, what the hell happened? Like, why? Don't put your hands on me. And then he's like, you threw tape at a fan. You hit a kid in the face.
Didn't he like pull your bags out and stuff?
No.
No, he just threw you out.
He threw me out. Yeah, he grabbed me and told me to come outside with him.
I'm positive like he ran wrestling simply to do things like that. Like he enjoyed like the day-to-day drama and bullshit of wrestling.
I think we all did at the beginning. Now it's just like, fuck.
Like the thing is with like, I started in 2002. 2003 I had I think maybe 2 matches. 2004 is when I started kind of getting around with Broadway, like the start of 2004. That Wayne thing happened. I was still 15. It's one of those few matches I worked in 2003.
So the same age as the ballets he was using at the time.
Yeah.
So has anybody else in this room been fired by Wayne? Have you been?
I got fired by Wayne before a hardcore battle royal.
Before it?
Yeah. He's like, because I came there and I just showed up and I came to the back and he's like, you think you're fucking better than everybody on this wrestling, on this fucking crew?
Which in truth you were.
And
It's probably
well, whatever. Like I was always level-headed about everything that I did. I always fucking came in there. I did my shit. I was quiet. I fucking was a sponge for fucking knowledge. I could filter out the bullshit, and I just fucking try to keep my course and not fuck around with anybody. That's what I did when I first started. And then, but you know, we all know the story. We all know the story of fucking being fucking whatever later on. But yeah, he fired me because. I think I told Cliff that I didn't want to wrestle Ox anymore. I think that was the reason I got fired. And because when I was Max Black, I was fucking wrestling Ox every fucking week. Nothing against Ox, yeah.
Everything against Ox.
Everything
Fuck you,
against Ox.
I still tell a story to this day about you versus Ox Anderson at Club St. B. You had to like, I think it was for Vic Savage, so it was probably a really good show, packed house.
Probably.
And they had Ox going over on you, and you didn't want to work with him and put him over. So I remember you just like kicking the living fuck out of him for 5 or 10 minutes, like just being a dick. And then to take it home, you got up on the second rope, and the ceiling's about as high as it is here in this room. You got up on the second rope, you jumped up, hit your own head on the ceiling, fell down, and had him pin you.
Yes.
You didn't want to put him over.
Well, that's what the fuck. We're using some shitty ring as usual for fucking St. B, and he wanted to hit me with his fucking Ox Slam or whatever the fucking called it. He picked it up. Slams you down.
It's like the Mark Henry thing.
Yeah, the world's strongest slammer. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I want to hit that on you. I was like, nah. I was like, nah, you're not doing that. And he's like, we'll figure it out when we go out there. Let's work around. So fucking, I was looking at the ceiling. I was like, okay, well, I'll just job to the ceiling. I won't job to Ox Anderson. I'll job to the ceiling. So I hit my head on the ceiling and take the ball. And then he's trying to pick me up, and I'm like, no, pin me. He's like, come on, get up. I won't hit you. No, just pin me. And he pins me. And then the ref's like confused. He's 1, 2, 3, and then fucking Ox gets up and he looks around, and I'm still laying there like fucking in a heap. I'm like, oh fuck. So fucking Ox gets up and he's like, yeah, I won. Blah, blah, blah. And he goes back, and I get back there, and he's like, what the fuck, man? He's like, what are you doing? Whatever, man, it worked. It got popped, right? People fucking enjoyed the match.
Did it though? Was there even anyone there?
Nah, it was like 20 people.
8 people.
Whatever. It was what it had to be, right?
Got them where they needed to go.
Exactly.
So at Broadway, you started what would probably be close to a decade-long run as a tag team partner with AJ Sanchez, the Big Sexy Beast that formed. How did that tag team come to be?
We were sitting in Joey Blitz's apartment one night.
Dropping a lot of good names on this podcast.
Yeah. We were just sitting around, and we knew we wanted to tag together, so we were just kind of like coming up with names. We were just like big monstrous beasts or whatever, and then AJ's like, oh, we could be the
FNF's Fat Naked Fucks.
Fat Naked Fucks. We could be Fat Naked Fucks. Fuck. And then we come up with a bunch of stupid names, and then we finally settled on Big Sexy Beasts because he's AJ and I'm Kevin. And it's just
I never made that fucking correlation.
What?
Oh god, this was okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, BSB. So it was like Backstreet Boys, and we were working the freaking all ages shows and shit. So they would be like BSB. Like thank you. And then they started chanting Backstreet Boys, And it'd be like, whoa.
When you
Well,
put
fuck.
your hands on your
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah.
No.
And then AJ
Put in the
put his
temper
hands on-
tantrums.
Yeah.
You'd hold each other's ears.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Speaking of getting naked, you
Shut up,
remember? You remember the Carmen Motor Inn when you got naked and knocked on
Yeah, I do.
and you
Oh,
opened
I vaguely remember that.
I got a cell phone, like a text message of like a naked Chevy like hunched over holding his balls like.
I don't even know how that came to be. It's like, oh, it'd be really funny if you got naked and knocked on Dan's door.
And it's like it's like a silhouette of you just like holding your.
Probably.
So were you and AJ, did you develop like a friendship before becoming a tag team, or is that something that kind of came?
Well, that kind of
came
came with that came in time. Like we would wrestle together, and then we started like talking and hanging out together and stuff. But yeah, it was basically wrestling. It was all about wrestling pretty much, and and then later on we would start hanging out and going out and friggin' go out to nightclubs and hanging out and shit. But yeah, it was. It was a fun time becoming what we came to be.
You guys were like a rarity that at the time that you actually guys put effort into being a tag team,
Yes.
matching gear,
Yes.
worked on having tag team moves, things of that
Worked
nature.
well together.
Worked very well together. Like going back to we're burying the RCW crew here.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of guys to work with at the time, but you guys really picked it up and worked an innovative style that was much more advanced than the guys you were working with at the time. Looking back, like working with those guys, did that teach you to be a leader, or was this just a matter of trying to bring them up to your level? How were you able to develop to such a quick level working with such limited talent?
You just had to bear down and try to bring them up to your level, or at the very best, try to make everybody as come up with you, right? Try to bring their A game or try to work, right?
Because Winnipeg had so much shitty wrestling for so long, a lot of guys that were really good would always be like, oh, you're not going to learn anything working those shows. Because I was one of those guys that wanted to work on every show I could because I loved wrestling, I wanted to get in the ring as much as I can, and they're like, you're not going to learn anything working with these guys. And you're not going to learn you're not going to learn certain things from guys, but having to work for RCW and Steel Town Pro Wrestling for so many years, you learn to become a ring general working with guys like that. You're not going to get Flair Steamboat out of them, but you're going to learn to take somebody of limited capabilities and guide them to something presentable. So there is some kind of learning experience working with guys like that. And I think for guys like us, that's how we kind of developed a lot quicker than a lot of guys at a young age because we had no choice but to either sink or swim or just be cast as one of those guys.
Yeah.
I remember watching one match at Broadway. It was you and AJ against Vinny and Vance, Nevada.
Oh, yeah.
Vance was living in Vancouver at the time, and he came back. I guess he was here for family or whatever.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
from here. But you guys had like a 4-step tag match where you were like teasing tags, and you had like a hot tag and a big comeback and a bunch of falsies and stuff. It was a basic 4-step match. Looking back, there's probably nothing like crazy special, but it was a match that had steps and had heat and separation and different things that pro wrestling should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was so different from anything that RCW was going on that I remember being like, holy fuck.
Was that the
so
same
good.
show the Cremator was on with Vance and introduced himself to the entire locker room as
I
Cremator?
believe so,
Yeah.
yes, the cremator.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, I'm Cremator.
That was the same week he was in town and like Tess called him
And-
fucking Mark.
Yeah.
Did your mom name you Cremator? Maybe.
Yeah, he worked like a handicap match against Test in like Grand Beach or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that.
Were you on that?
I was on that. Yeah.
That was a story that was going around for years. So you can get like the first-hand recollection of it because I heard that like Tess like really. I think I only met Cremator that once. He could be a good dude for all I know. But I remember
It was
there
at the
heat for that.
There was a Grand Beach rock show,
Yeah, it was
volleyball
like
show.
Yeah.
I wrestled
Summerfest or
Yeah,
whatever.
I can't remember like
It got
exactly.
rained out, didn't it?
It got, yeah, like it was kind of like going along. Like me and Sombra went out, of course, me and Sombra. But then I do remember that's what I very trying to remember the Cremator, and I do remember Tess being pretty fucking hot. I don't remember the whole damn story, but I do remember like vague memories of that. Of
Yeah,
Tess being pretty
because he
fucking
introduced
pissed.
himself as Cremator.
Yeah, and I remember that he's walking around the Cremator, and that's when I first met him. He's got the whole Undertaker thing going on, like what the cane, whatever. And I'm
That's
like,
something that always
what
bugs
the
me when
fuck,
guys do it.
man?
Like if your work name is like Mike Smith and you introduce yourself to me as Mike, that's cool because that's what your name is. But it always does come across you looking like a complete fucking idiot. If you're like,
Yeah.
oh hi, I'm Doink the Clown.
Or, hey,
Yeah, we know
Danny
that.
Duggan. Like, who the
Yes.
fuck does that?
You and Vinny had like a lot of really good matches together, and like Vinny is somebody that if he, had the opportunity to work with a lot of like more talented guys like the rest of us did for different offices, he probably could have been like one of the standout guys from the territory. He had such incredible athletic ability, and he had a real good knack for learning quickly. But unfortunately, he always kind of stayed loyal to one place where the talent pool was limited, so he could never really grow as a performer. You were somebody that was able to get incredible matches out of him. Like I remember the ladder match you guys did at Ellis Theater, and just anytime you guys got in the ring together, it was magic. What was the secret or the key for you getting these matches out of Vinny when others weren't able to quite get that same mileage out of him?
Vinny and I was a good base. I was a good base, and Vinny would do all the athletic stuff, and I would catch Vinny, and we just kind of played off each other's strengths and try to hide our weaknesses, right? Like, he's a smaller dude. He's going to do a lot of more strikes and flying around, keeping separation, staying out of my danger zone like a bear. Like, is this my danger zone? Don't get in my danger zone. Yeah, so yeah, a little bit of like a bear. Makwa.
That's a Ojibwe lesson.
So, yeah, and we would watch a lot of wrestling together and stuff, and we would be in the ring before every show, and we just try new different shit like while we were advancing our wrestling repertoire, I guess you could call it.
Why do you think you never took like the step to try to work with another office and some of the better guys? Because there was always offers from other places. Hey, come down and work. We'll give you an opportunity.
I think Wayne was in his ear too much, or
I think Wayne.
He was Wayne's golden boy. Like, Wayne always made sure he was pushed, but if Wayne would have maybe let him venture out a little bit and say work with a guy like Kenny Omega, Mentalo, guys that worked with a similar style to him that were much more polished. Like, I think the sky could have been the limit for him here in Winnipeg. Like, he could have been one of those guys that was
traveled and went all over the world. Like, he was very, very good.
Was that because he was just doing it as a hobby, or like what was?
I think it might have been the hobby, but I think it might have also been Wayne too, because Wayne was always like adamant about having him be protected. Like, if you go to these other places, they're gonna eat you up and they're gonna squash you, or they're gonna beat you up, or they're gonna beat you up, they're gonna use you up, and they're gonna toss you to the side. And you're never gonna get an opportunity there like you're gonna get an opportunity here with me. So I think Wayne got in his ear about being loyal and being like one of his boys or whatever. I don't know, because Wayne would tell him that his best chances of doing anything was probably with him.
And like when Divine was living, when Johnny Divine was living here for that year where he was out of TNA, he went to an RCW show and he watched Vinny, and he said, "I need to get my hands on that kid," because Vinny was so just naturally gifted and naturally talented that like Divine, who was fresh off of TNA TV at the time, was like, "I need to work with that kid." It never happened.
Well, I guess as a result, he got to win like a replica WCW US title a few times.
We held those titles together too.
Yeah. So something.
That's pretty spectacular.
So as like time moved on, AWE popped up. Mike Davidson was running. He needed a tag team for some like a spot show in Steinbach, because he had to run like 2 or 3 dates to get Hacksaw and Billy Gunn. And I pitched you and Sanchez, and he was kind of leery on it because he wasn't familiar with who you guys were, and everybody that worked for RCW was kind of painted with that brush of being a local jabroni. He gave you guys an opportunity the night before. You guys worked Adam Knight, Chi-Chi Cruz, and that match kind of like solidified, I would say, your future in Winnipeg, because that match put you guys on the map as being able to go with 2 veterans in the territory. So it opened the door for you to now be on all these bigger shows and be that. And the same weekend we did the King of the Canadian Indies Battle Royal, which was booked to be a rib on guys like us that were kind of breaking in, and a bunch of those guys. But we took it and made it one of the most entertaining segments on the show, if not one of the most entertaining segments. You were also on that show.
Yeah, I did a shoot fight with Donnie DiCaprio, who's
another one that did a shoot fight.
Yeah, Jason Geiger. He's a talented MMA fighter now.
Yeah. So what are some of your guys' memories of kind of working for Mike and going from working these small community club shows and with guys that aren't necessarily the best, to being in the locker room with the G-Man and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Chi-Chi Cruz, Adam Knight, Jay Madison? What was that like for you, being so young and green in the business, now getting these opportunities to be on these bigger scale shows?
So my first experience with AWE, with working with Mike, I worked a guy from Minnesota. I can't remember what his name was. Rob James.
Punisher.
I guess so.
Punisher Rob James.
Punisher Rob James, sure. I worked him in Steinbach, and you know, I had maybe like 30, 40 matches at that point, and I don't know. Mike saw something in me, and must have liked it because he kept using me, and I did the shoot fight with Donnie DiCaprio. I think the following night or the previous night. Yeah, the following night, and then Mike started doing those big shows at the University of Manitoba, and doing the TVs, taping the TVs, and then the match that you and I had with AJ and Chevy, we did a tag, and I still feel like it was really good. Like for where we were, like at our in our careers at the time, we were all young. It was a big crowd. It was like 1,000 people. It was our first time working in front of like a professional TV crew. We went out there and we had like an indie style spot fest match where we were doing all this crazy agile shit. It was just a match. Did the match.
Oh, yeah.
This is the match where you did the moonsault.
No one got you.
Nobody caught you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but like we got to the back and our heads were all big, and then Mike was like, "You guys, that was not TV friendly."
That was
Yeah, it
not
wasn't
TV
friendly.
friendly.
It wasn't TV friendly because I don't think we went out there and shit the bed. I think that's what he was expecting of us, to go out there and just and then have his fucking bullshit commentary that he would do and like job guys out.
And the other guy, just because he wanted punch and kicks for the other.
I don't even know if it was necessarily that he wanted us to shit the bed. I don't think that he had any expectations for it to be anything special. They kind of just threw it out there. Let's throw these kids out there and they'll do their spot and go. And we took it seriously because we've been working really hard and wanted to leave an impression. It was a big show, 5 or 6 names on it, 1,000 people. And we went out there, and I haven't watched the match in years, and I'm sure now, compared to the way I work now, I'd be like,
Yeah.
But for the time, it was probably really good for where we, like you said, where we were. I think the finish was like that big kryptonite crunch off the top rope we did. Like, we risked our bodies and really wanted to leave an impression, and I think that's what got us heated. We really went all out. We're doing, moonsaults to the floor.
I did a suplex off the apron to the floor with no mats.
Right.
With him.
Like, we went out there and fucking killed ourselves, literally. And I think in that sense that a lot of people talk about that being one of the best matches, if not the best match on the taping, just because of the crazy bumps we were taking on a show that had tens of thousands of dollars invested into names. So I think it kind of probably rubbed some guys in the back the wrong way, that, oh, these kids are going out there, they don't know their spot and stuff like that. So I think that's where it kind of came into play.
But it's like using a current term. We for where we were, like I said, in our career, we were young. Like we were still underage, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So like we go out there and grab the proverbial brass ring, and people were pissed off about it.
I think it's like because a lot of their matches, like as I said, like guys like going to do a punch and kick, or this finisher is a leg drop, whatever, and it's like, and you guys are going out. I got the same issue one time. Me and Cam, when Cam first broke into business, Kamikaze, we did a bunch of shit in Edmonton, and Massive fucking lit us up because guys like behind them were like just regular punch and kick matches, and we just got, why the fuck did you do all that shit? You did all this, and we're just like, we thought we had a great match, and we're like, what the fuck? And I think that's the mentality is young guys going out there tearing the fucking show up, whatever. At that time, these other guys now are like, what the fuck? Like, now we gotta follow that, or
see, the thing is, like, it goes back to that generational thing, the YouTube thing. Like, I don't think any of the veterans who were around before us got to see like Ring of Honor and Indies, like the old Super 8 tapes where guys were doing crazy shit, and like we were the first guys to like have that in the barrel, you know what I mean, ready to go. So when we go up there and do it, and they just think we're going out there and going nuts and like doing all these fucking crazy high spots, that's what the wrestling business was evolving into.
Yeah.
And I think us, for the first guys to go out there and do it, just because we didn't go do a bullshit Winnipeg 4-step match, punch kick, big comeback, cheesy fucking selling, you know what I mean?
My match
He's comeback finish.
Yeah. I don't think
they
were too happy about it.
No, and as a booker, I understand, like, guys do have a place on the show, but me as a booker will book them in the correct spot on the show, so guys can still go out there and bust their ass, and it's not going to take away from other matches on the show. I don't agree with, like, I do and don't agree with that. You got to know your place. Don't go out there and overshadow this match. On the indies, we don't have the biggest depth pool, so we need everybody on deck going out there and fucking killing it, match 1 through 6 or however many matches there is, because people are putting their money down, and we want to make sure they're coming back. I don't want to put all my eggs in one match's basket to seal the deal. I want 6 matches that go out there and kill it, and that's what we do now. You look at those shows when we have all these guys coming in like Chase Owens and Jason Kincaid and stuff like that. Every match, guys are killing it from opening bell to end of bell, and that's why the business is growing. If it was 4 matches of guys, walking and talking, and then 1 match that killed it, well, there's no reason to go.
You gotta bring them in now. Like that's as you said. That's where the business is evolving. Like you gotta keep up with it. You gotta you gotta kick out of fucking 20 finishers now and get these guys into it now. Like it's just I think it's a good thing though.
I think it is a good thing because and not necessarily kicking out of like 20 finishes or whatever, but like having exciting matches.
Yeah.
Because like media and everything is so fucking like it's so on demand that everybody can just change the channel or get whatever they want like immediately.
Yeah.
And that's just the way people are conditioned now. And if you go out there and you take your time and you bullshit and you walk and talk and you scoot like Larry Zbyszko 5 times, people are gonna shit on it and never come back.
Yeah, there's a time and place for those matches. Like there's some crowds in small town Canada that don't get away with that kind of stuff, and that's cool. But in this day and age, like you said, you have to pick it up and keep people's attention. But then again, I don't even know if it's about necessarily the pace or the moves, because that's something I've prided myself on, because I'm not the most overly athletic person.
Engaging. It's about engaging.
I don't do the coolest moves, but I'll be on shows with guys that do crazy shit like that, and I'll pride myself on there being a match before me that's like a 3-way or 4-way indie spot fest where they're doing this and doing that and they're killing themselves, and the crowd is like, man. And then I'll go out there and do a fraction of that stuff, but engage them with the story I'm telling. So as long as you're finding a way to engage the audience, like moves don't matter. And that's what I always tell young guys that are trying to put all their eggs in that basket of doing the cool move. It's cool to have a cool move, but that's not going to make you money.
Put it in the right spot.
Yeah.
Make it build up to it, make it mean something. A lot of guys don't know that either.
We're going to take one final break, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the careers of the fabulous Cre Birds.
Fabulous.
So for our last 20 minutes here, we got a lot to cover, so we're going to do some rapid fire. Let's talk about how the Creebirds came to be, the name, the team. Because for a long time, we were shock and awe. You and AJ were the big, sexy beasts. How did it come to be that you did the big switch and you two became a team?
So, like, you and I had worked with AJ and Chevy quite a bit. Like,
Thousand times.
like 1,000 times. We were just married to each other everywhere we went, like you and Lasambra. Like, everywhere we went, any time we were on a show together, we were always together. And then we had wrestled each other a few times at the Lid for PCW. And Andrew had, I don't know why we had separated. Or you went to Windsor.
I got fired.
He got fired. And it was me and AJ kind of just left. And then when you came back, he was gone. And then, like, we were talking, like, we were talking about something. And then, Andrew kind of figured, he's like, are you Aboriginal? Because like visually I'm not, but like my father's Aboriginal, my mom's Caucasian. But he's like, oh, I want to put together like a native tag team, from what I remember. And then the name came about from Edmonton. Chi-Chi Cruz and Massive Damage had this conversation.
Chi-Chi Cruz was talking about tagging with, I forget who.
Oh, it's Wavell or something.
Yeah, Wavell.
Yeah.
It was Wavell.
And he made the joke, oh, let's call them the Fabulous Cre Birds. Like, play on obviously the Fabulous Cre Birds. But, so, Chevy and I were originally gonna call ourselves the Indian Posse. That was our original name. And then, after not much talk, we kind of just were like, well, let's fucking use the Fabulous Cre Birds. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? And then we started using it, and then, of course, fuckhole out in Edmonton there decides to get all pissy about it. Cheech was cool with it. Cheech is the one who came up with it.
Who got hot about it?
What's his face? The guy we were just talking about. Massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
Why was he hot about it?
Because we stole his idea.
Was he going to use it?
Yeah.
Why
And he did end up using it.
He ended up using it.
Sexy Samantha and Wavell.
And Wavell.
Were the Creebirds.
Okay.
Yeah. And like Wavell was cool with it because Wavell is like, Wavell and Cheech had originally brainchild come up with the idea. Wavell was cool with it. Cheech was cool with it.
It's in Edmonton. It's in Winnipeg.
It's like
Yeah, exactly.
And
Who
there's
fucking
no
cares?
TV that fucking belongs.
Who cares? You know what I mean? How many Hollywood blondes were there in the history of wrestling? You know what I mean?
Not to backtrack, but firing stories are always the best. Why did you get fired from ECW?
I
I love when people get fired from local wrestling.
I went on and did a show with you and Carrie out in Saskatchewan, and then I came back and I was fired.
Oh,
Because
right.
you didn't show up on that show?
Nobody was
Yeah.
allowed to wrestle for earnings.
Yeah, no one was allowed to wrestle for Mr. Jada at that time.
So because you were going out, getting experience and making
Getting
money,
paid money.
you got fired.
I'm surprised he wasn't fired by Andrew. I'm very shocked.
You've never been fired?
Never been fired by
He
Andrew.
hates you though,
I
doesn't
hate-
he? Like, aren't you like on his like shit
We
list?
can, I was on his
I'm
show
up
for
there
the
with
longest
you,
time. Well, we can have conversations, but I was never ever fired from PCW from Andrew.
But you
I've
have
been
quit,
fired
though, right?
three-
I have quit twice on him after lying to him that I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, 3 times I got
The
fired.
Robbie-
You've been fired
Influence.
3 times from
Yes.
PCW?
Yes.
What were the other 2 reasons?
I believe one was because I argued with his old lady at one point.
Like in person or on the internet?
Just on the internet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And he's like, don't you ever fucking come back here again, I hate you. and then the other time he sent me this, he's like, 1, go fuck yourself. 2, you're fired. 3, don't ever fucking show your face in PCW.
4, we need to go next week.
He fired me one time. He didn't actually fire me. It was at the end of the lit. He was ready to give me a big push. I was working with Chad Tatum for the Canadian title, and then eventually when we moved to Dillon's, I think the plan was to switch it at the first show. But when it stopped at the lit, we had like a couple month period, and then at that last show, it was fucking packed. Like the place was full.
The culmination of Cooler.
Yeah, the culmination of Cool or whatever. And he'll tell me to fuck myself, but he gave me a really light PO. Like, he didn't give me much money, and I asked him about it. I know.
What?
And I said, like, what is this? I said, what is this? There was like, and then we were trading emails back and forth. I was like, well, you had 350 people at X amount of dollars. I was like, if you do the fucking math, that's this much of a gate. Like, you made this much money. He's like, no, I didn't. I was like, well, then you are fucking screwing yourself because you're not charging people to get in. Because if you do the math, 350 at this equals this. I said, you're giving me this. He probably doesn't remember any of this, but he essentially told me to fuck myself. And then he sent a crew email out to the boys saying he would trade me for future considerations and want nothing in return.
I remember that actually.
Wow.
Didn't you guys wrestle there this year
Yeah.
Yeah.
against the Londons?
Yeah.
How awesome was that?
Was what it had to be.
I think I think me and Royce went to that show, and we were actually gonna tell him to go fucking stiff him up. Because that's also the time they made a comment about Team Impact being a shit tag team. He left, whatever, and we're ready. To go.
They were like,
That's what
they
they
were
were
like,
they're trying to get us because we're in the audience, and they were like, me and Royce were like, we should just go get, because we were gonna jump them themselves, beat them up ourselves. And they were like, fuck. And then I was like, fuck the wrestling Chevy and fucking Epic. Let's just get them to beat them up.
That was on my birthday week.
We're gonna tell them, just go fucking stiff them up.
How was it working? So they did like 1 or 2 shows for us, and they were like so quiet and timid in the corner, like they seemed respectful and such. But I imagine like PCW being like their home. That's like their.
they were like,
How was
they
it?
were really nice.
Yeah, they
were fine.
They were fine.
They weren't really.
In the ring, they will give you some work. For like,
I think
They
they
were
were
retired.
long
Yeah,
time.
they're retired now, so.
yeah. I mean, like,
Thanks.
Let's close the.
they were really respectful. They were fine. They were fine.
Close that.
And like a few years ago in my past life, which we may or may not get into, I would have probably kicked the shit out of them just for fun. But they were fine. They were nice. And like, no, he was.
I slammed one on the other one. That's pretty fun.
He showed up 5 minutes for the match, shithole drunk. I was actually gonna go.
It was my birthday week.
I was gonna go
Hey,
and
you're still
start the
saying
match
the
by
ring, you're
myself.
drunk.
Yeah.
I still.
I'd rather
I would rather wrestle you drunk.
I'd rather wrestle you drunk. 'Cause I know you're not safe.
Because you're like extra
That's the
careful when
general
you're drunk.
consensus of everybody.
I tell everybody that. I'm like, oh, Chevy drinks. Like, you want him drinking.
Yeah, because he's extra careful.
Yeah.
Because he gets in the ring, he's like, okay,
Okay.
I know I'm drunk, so I gotta be careful. But if you're fucking sober,
than you. Yeah.
fucking full bore.
One of the more physical
Yeah,
matches
but
you had, and probably like the most memorable Creebirds match, was the match with the Briscoe brothers early on in CWE history. What are some of your memories working with Mark and Jay?
It was fun.
It was a really good match.
Yeah,
it was,
there was people that came up to me and told me that it was the best match they'd ever seen, which was like a huge compliment.
Was
And
it
it was
the only match they'd ever seen?
Probably,
Probably,
yeah.
yeah.
And like, what was really special for me, we got to the back. The boys gave us a standing ovation, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, me and Royce came to that show because we were pretty hot because that's the tag team that we were for the longest time. And that was a damn good match. Like, even as pissed off we were, but you still can't take the credit away. Like, it was just
But isn't Royce
hard
pissed
hitting.
off? That's why he's the pissed off pitbull.
pretty
He's
much.
always pissed off.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was a hard hitting match. I mean, I'm talking shots, and it was very entertaining to watch.
They were really
And,
snug, but they weren't like
They weren't. Yeah, and it was just. as much as
They were actually surprised at what we could do.
Yeah, like
They were really complimentary to both of you after.
Yeah.
Like, when I talked to them both after, they were really happy with working with you guys. I guess like getting real with you guys. Like, you guys went in there with the Briscoe brothers. You You hung with the best tag team in the world at the time. Why, for the two of you, did you not kind of keep pushing forward and try to make that next step in wrestling? Like, everyone has always said, like, has always been, like, anybody you've ever worked with, like, they see you like, oh, big guy, you don't know what to expect, and then you wow them with all your athleticism and your natural ability. You've always been incredibly good on the microphone. Where's the disconnect for your guys' selves to going, you know what, I want to take this to the next level and try to do something with this, because you've got plenty of people that would have your back and vouch for you in different offices.
My personal life was nothing to I guess, to be proud of at that point. Like, by the time we had been working the Briscoe Brothers, I was heavily involved in drugs. I was fucking drinking like crazy. I was using a whole bunch of different drugs. And my life hadn't become unmanageable yet, but it was like on the tipping point at that point, where it was just kind of like, wrestling is not important to me anymore. And it got a lot worse for the next few years.
I think you took a hiatus after that, didn't you?
2010, yeah, I left for like 3.5 years. Yeah. But in 2011, I went to Japan, and by 2011, my life was in shambles. I was using drugs every day, not because I wanted to, because I needed to, and I lost the choice at that point. Like, I was a full-blown addict. And February 2011, I had gotten a call. My son was born in October 2010, and I got a call, I think 2 weeks after he was born, from a guy in Japan who had seen some of my stuff that I had sent over, and he got maybe an offer to go over. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I would love to. They gave me a couple dates, and I said, I took the one that was furthest from the time they made the offer, because I wanted to get my body in shape. I wanted to, like, clean up and not use anymore. And so I took a date, February 6th, 2011, which was Super Bowl Sunday in America. I was due to leave February 3rd, 2011. And by that time, like I said, I've been using a number of different things, like every day, all day. Like, all my money was going to it. Rent wasn't being paid. Bills were being paid. I had a child, and like a beautiful, intelligent, wonderful wife, and none of it mattered. So February 3rd, 2011, I get on a plane. My wife and my son are going to Edmonton to visit her family. And the night before, I had gone to pick up a whole bunch of stuff because my flight was leaving at like 6 in the morning. So I wanted to take my stuff onto the plane, put myself out on the plane for a little bit, catch my connector in Vancouver to go to Japan, and have enough to get there. But when I got to the airport that morning, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, something crazy like that. And when I was getting into the airport, I had my stuff in my pockets. And I remember walking in and just panicking. Like, if I go through security, I'm not going to Japan. I'm going to the remand center. I'm going to jail if anybody finds how much stuff I have. So like any good addict, I went to the bathroom. I was going to flush it. And then I was like, you know what? No. Let's just take it all. So I've been taking painkillers, heroin, methadone, sleeping pills, anxiety pills. I probably had cocaine in my system. I'd been drinking the night before. So like, that's 7 things just off the bat that was already in my system. So I had more of that. So I went to the bathroom before I went through security. I took everything. And then the last thing I remember, I go through security, I kiss my wife and my son, they get on the airplane, I threw my backpack over my shoulder and walked to my gate, and the last thing I remember. The next thing I know, I'm waking up in a bed. I don't know what city I'm in. My flight was to go from Winnipeg to Calgary to Vancouver on to Tokyo. The last thing I remember, I threw the backpack over my shoulder, I wake up in a bed, people are speaking English, and in my mind I'm like, why are people speaking English? I'm in Japan right now. These doctors speak really good English. Why are there doctors? Oh, look down, and my shirt's cut open. I have heart monitors all over me. I have an IV in my arm, tubes up my nose. And I told the doctor, I was like, listen, like, I'm on my way to Japan. Like, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going for the biggest opportunity of my life, the biggest thing I'd ever dreamed of. The only thing that I ever wanted in this business was one tour of Japan. I never wanted WWE. WWE was always a goal, but that was not my huge thing. So I wake up in this hospital. I don't know which city I'm in. Turns out I'm in Calgary. I tell the doctor, I was like, listen, I need to go make money. Can you please write me something that says I can get on a plane? And he wrote this letter saying, I permit you to fly with the intention of me going home. But what it didn't say on the letter is where I needed to go. So I went to the airport. I gave this letter to the people at Air Canada. I said, I'm supposed to get on a flight. I'm going to Japan. So I was in Calgary. I caught my connector to Vancouver. When I landed in Vancouver, I had already missed my flight to Tokyo. And when I got there, 5 hours before, I'm in a hospital hooked up to machines. I get off the plane, I can't catch a flight till the next day. I go to a vendor and I get a 12-pack of beer, and I drink 12 beer after I'm nearly dead 8 hours before from an overdose, or 12 hours. I don't even know how long I was there. I get drunk. I wake up the next morning, no idea what had happened. It took a few days to jog my memory to kind of remember what had happened. And then I catch my flight, I go to Japan. I get to Japan, Yuji Okabayashi picks me up. He's a big guy, big Japan, old Japan, does a lot of stuff over there. Nicest guy, picks me up. He sees that I'm not well. And he's very friendly, he takes me to the dojo. Our first show was in Osaka, so we drive to Osaka, we drive the 8 hours or whatever to Osaka on the bus. And I'm sick and I could barely walk, and I had gotten a spray tan before I went because I wanted to look good on camera. So what I didn't know is that when I pulled off the heart monitors, it also pulled off my spray tan. So I had like patches of white skin all over and taken off the tape from the IVs and whatnot. And so I go out there and I could barely move. Like I could barely walk, I could barely breathe. I'm sick, I'm dying. I'm, like literally physically, like my body was just not working. I go out there and I have a match. It was like a six-man street fight death match or whatever in Big Japan. And I walked back through the curtain, like barely walked back through the curtain. I didn't walk to my gear, I walked to the promoter and I said, I need to go home. Like, thank you, but no thank you. My personal life was an absolute shambles. And I flew back to Canada. I went to Edmonton and stayed with my wife and my son for 2 weeks. And then came back to Winnipeg. And my life went on like that for a little while longer. You know, my wife left. She was such a wonderful person. And she left because she couldn't handle it anymore. She couldn't handle the rent money missing. And me, I'd overdosed a few times. And she's taking care of a little boy. She's working and she's in school. And I'm just a complete and utter wreck. My personal life was a wreck. So, you know, I'm not proud of it, but like, to answer the question 20 minutes ago, why I never took the next step is because my personal life was in the toilet.
Like I say now, again, like, from like, I knew you back then for as well, like even now, like I see like, you brought your son a lot of times to the wrestling show, I see a totally different guy than what we see, like even like, we were trained up in the backyard there, you brought, you know, because I think it's a testament to you guys, you know, good fathers, and I don't think that potentially could be a reason why I thought you guys didn't really take the next step, because I think that's very hard to leave a child behind and stuff like that. So I think there's always a bright side to the story, that you know you overcame all those things, because I do see a good father in both of you guys.
They say everything does happen for a reason, and sometimes you do have to go through struggles to
Yeah.
get to the greater good. And you've taken what was an awful, horrible situation that nobody should ever have to go through or deal with, and you've actually turned it into a positive.
Yeah.
So maybe you can kind of tell some of those people that are watching what you're kind of doing with your life now, because those decisions are very reflective of your life now, and,
Yeah.
and what you're doing to help people and help create change in people going through the same problem.
So I've been in long-term abstinence-based recovery for the last few years, and what I do now is I work with youth age 13 to 17 who are using and coming off the street. And I'm not trying to fix them, because I believe addiction can be just fixed like that. I believe it has to be a personal journey and process. But what I do is I work with them coming off the street. They come and stay at a place where I work. They stay for 7 to 10 days. They detox, they stabilize, and then we give them a choice. Do you want to go back out and go on the street, or would you like to go to treatment? And that's what my job is to kind of be there, plant the seed, see where they are, kind of work with them, as opposed to saying, okay, you need to stop using drugs. Because drugs are to medicate. That's what I use drugs for. I was diagnosed with PTSD a few years ago, and I found out that that's why I was using so much, is because I couldn't stay in my own head. And a lot of these kids who are medicating and using drugs and can't stop, like physically cannot stop. Like, I used to have days where I'd wake up every single day and pray to God that I wouldn't use drugs, and by the end of the night, and by the end of the day, by the time I went to bed, I was fucking wasted. You know what I mean? And I couldn't, like, there was nothing, no power over it. So these kids that are coming in and are at that point, and maybe some aren't even at that point, sometimes drugs were still fun. Like, that's what I base my life off now, is not going out there and trying to fix people, but just understanding. It's understanding what they go through.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that don't or never dealt with addiction, or people that they've been through. Like, it'll be, next week or 2 weeks, it'll be 3 years since I've touched alcohol at all. And that was something I tried to quit many times over before I was able to, and people just go, just quit, just don't drink. And it's not that easy. When something's got a hold over you and you get into that routine where your body becomes dependent on a substance, it's near impossible. It feels like it's impossible to just say, no, I'm not doing it today, because you wake up with that intention of, I'm not going to drink today, or I'm going to go out, I'm not going to drink today.
Yeah.
And all it takes is that slightest entice from somebody to say, just have one with me.
Yeah, just come out for a bit.
You know, and it's that simple, and the next thing you know, you're spiraling out of control. So
Absolutely.
It's and something actually you said to me a long time ago. You sometimes just need somebody to talk to. It doesn't have to be about your addiction. It's just having somebody to talk to keep your mind off of the addiction. Just calling somebody up and talking about baseball or country music or whatever the case may be. Just having that support system and knowing that there's somebody that's there, because addiction can be an embarrassing thing. It's a humiliating thing. It's not something you can just, to a lot of people, you can't just call up your mom and be like, hey, I've got a drug problem or I've got an alcohol problem, because that's a really humbling thing to do, and people find it very hard to show that kind of weakness. So knowing that there's support there for you that's non-judgmental to your battles goes a long way. So that's a great thing to be doing for people.
I think addiction is the only disease where people get blamed for having it. I think that depression, things like suicide, anything mental health, people get blamed for. Like, I was weak and I was a moral failure and I was a scumbag and all these things to a lot of people, but what I was doing was medicating. If somebody had dealt with my mental health, I probably wouldn't have ended up a drug addict that was living out of a car. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have lost my wife and my home and my family and my job and left wrestling and all this stuff. I wouldn't have done it if somebody had dealt with it and said, listen, this is a problem. You need to deal with it. Instead of self-medicating for so long and ending up where I ended up, out of wrestling. When I started working in 2013 again, I was clean and I came back with a different mindset. And I had come back and I was working as a heel. And because my life had changed so much and I dealt with my mental health, and I was working as a heel, but I had no darkness to grab onto anymore, my personality, my life, and my mind, that I found it really uncomfortable and really hard to be a heel, because 99% of my career I spent as a heel, like a heel with a microphone that can get my anger out, and I can walk out and I can control the fans with negativity and release that negative energy, but I didn't have that anymore. You know what I mean? I found it very hard to draw upon. And if somebody had dealt with me being me and the problems that I had, my life probably wouldn't have taken such a drastic turn.
Definitely. And people say there's nobody holding a gun to your head. And maybe when you first start using something, they're not, and that is your own decision to do so. Mm-hmm. But once you get stuck in that spiral, it's impossible. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whatever the case may be. I think people that don't have experience dealing with it personally or with people in their lives, they don't understand what a hold has. When you have these addictions, you have it. It's not something you're oblivious to. You have a problem, but it's a problem you have a hard time fighting. It really is. You want help, but you don't know how to ask for it, or you're not strong enough to get through, because you become so dependent, just mentally and physically on some of these substances, that it's a battle you feel like you can't win, and it's really morally defeating to have something have that hold on you where you feel you have no control over your own actions. It's
an awful thing, and being completely powerless and being told that you're weak for using, but the only way to feel good, to feel normal, is to use, right? And you hit that point where it just becomes mandatory. You know what I mean? And there's no turning back from that. And instead of being a failure and you're weak and all this, it's just medication. That's what it was for me. It was just medication.
You started to do some speaking, so maybe you can kind of let the people know at home that if they want to look more into what you're doing now with this portion of your life and your career map now, where can they check that out?
So I was doing speaking for a few years. I'm still available if anybody wants to find me. On social media, you can go to @EverSickStefan, which brings me to my next thing, is what I'm doing now. I host a podcast called the Ever Sick Podcast, and it's much like this. We just sit around, shoot the breeze. I get friends from wrestling. I get, as an Indigenous person, I find it very hard to find any positivity in the media regarding Indigenous people. So what I do is I talk to Indigenous people, or I talk to wrestlers, and just let them tell their story, and let them, I had Chevy on. My first 2 episodes were with Chevy, and it was just I wanted people to know Chevy like I knew Chevy. And Chevy's obviously an Indigenous person, and if somebody would see him walking down the street, somebody might just make assumptions or stereotype him, but Chevy does amazing things. He's an amazing performer. Like, I will say this: Chevy's my best friend. Chevy and I met each other. Our fathers grew up on the same reserve. They grew up in the same place. That's kind of the connection we started off of. Like, I will say this to you guys onto this camera and with Chevy here. Chevy is God's gift to wrestling. I believe that. From the first time I watched him until now. Chevy is so agile, so gifted, so naturally able to perform. Like, Chevy's honestly one of the greatest people that I've ever watched. Like, I'll say that right now.
Thank you.
Shouldn't think for you, but
I totally have to agree on that.
like, there's nobody that I like watching more than Chevy. Like, ridiculously enough, like, I could watch Ring of Honor, but I'd rather watch this guy. You know what I mean? So, back to the Ever Sick podcast. I just want to talk to people. I want to learn their stories because as a person, just as a human being, I find that the most interesting thing is just somebody walking down the street could have the most ridiculous true Hollywood story. You know what I mean? And nobody would ever know.
Something that people don't know, we've kind of talked about this the last couple of days, your in-ring career may be winding down. We're not sure if it's for good or if it's temporary. What is the future of the Fabulous Cre Birds and more specifically yourself with your health at the current moment?
So I was having problems. Like, I was having weakness in my arm. I was having muscle atrophy. I would have like when you flex your forearm and you get that little bump at the bottom where the muscle is, that was gone. Like, there was nothing there. It was just flat. And I couldn't grasp things. I couldn't pick things up. Like, if somebody were to shake my hand, I would just dead fish them.
Like the Winnipeg.
Yeah, like the
handshake.
Winnipeg wrestling handshake,
Yeah.
shaking somebody's hand like this. So I've been dealing with this for about a year, and I didn't say anything to anybody. But then it started getting bad to where, like, I would drop things, and then I went to the doctor, and a few months later I got it for an MRI. I have a bunch of bone chips in my neck that are pushing on nerves, and unless I get them surgically taken out, there's probably no way I'm going to be able to perform safely. Like, I could go out there and do it, but I'm risking myself, like, every time I do it. We just worked in North Dakota against the Whirlwind Gentlemen. Me and Chevy wrestled the Whirlwind Gentlemen from Portland or Vegas or wherever they're from. And I had taken a backdrop, and I took the backdrop, and I felt lightning shoot down my hands. And then I got up, and I fed for another move, and I took a clothesline, and he hit me with the clothesline, and my body just stopped moving. And I hit the mat, and, like, I couldn't get up. You can find it on YouTube, Fully Loaded Wrestling. You can find it. You could see me take the backdrop. I get up really weird, and then I take a clothesline, and my body just, like, falls like a tree over, and I can't get up. And he's waiting for me, and you can see in the video, he's, like, trying to, like, looking around, like, is this guy okay? And my body was, like, pinned to the mat, and I couldn't get up. So as far as, like, wrestling beyond where I am right now, probably not. Safely. I got a child, and I got a career, and I got all these things that I want to do. If I take a bad bump and I can't move, that's kind of out the window.
Yeah. Well, you are going to be making the transition into the CWE commentary booth.
That's true.
You're going to be joining Dave Petro very soon, so we're going to keep you involved. We got to wrap up, but we do have a couple quick questions, if that's fine. We have some fan questions. We have a couple questions you always ask here on the podcast.
We have fans?
Yeah, you have fans.
We had a couple,
I had a couple come up here. First, my questions. We always ask on the podcast. It's a two-part question. First, who is the shittiest guy you've ever been in the ring with?
Go ahead.
Chevy?
No. Answer first.
he puts him over, but he's also...
You're a piece of shit.
Probably would have to be the Tulip.
The Tulip.
You wrestled the Tulip?
Yeah.
Really?
The
Where?
Tulip taught Danny and I the short arm system.
Yeah, I still use it to this day.
The short arm system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tulip. Don't like the Tulip. Not that I don't like
He's
him.
a nice guy.
It's not that I don't like him.
There's some, like, he's an urban legend. Like, nobody knows if he's alive.
I think he's driving.
He's driving cabs in Vegas.
Somebody said that. Like,
Yeah.
Cheech said the other day on Facebook he's dead. Like, nobody knows. Like, this could be...
It's like Pillow.
Yeah, like, this could be like a documentary series of, like, finding the Tulip.
The dead beat fighting dead in your wrestling.
Who would be your choice, Stefan?
Fuck me. Like, just as far as somebody who didn't have a clue,
Yeah, just...
probably like somebody like Madman Muir, just like clueless. Spanky would be one.
I did mention Spanky.
Good for you. probably those
Don't
guys.
just brag about it.
Shittiest match of all time.
Kevin, I love you, but that match you had at the Sutherland with Todd Bullitt was the worst experience that I've ever had in the wrestling
I'm
business.
gonna go with that one.
Fucking
That
embarrassing.
match
That was that bad?
I know Todd wasn't happy
Todd,
with
it
you.
was pretty bad.
So
And it wasn't like, I'll stop before I get myself. It wasn't your fault.
you have a reputation as being like probably like the best drinker in Canadian wrestling. Like if you can drink beer with Kevy Chevy and go toe to toe with him, you've done something. Is there anybody in the business that's outdrank you and put you under the table?
Holy shit. I've drank with this guy a bunch of times.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, not anymore. But drink me.
Yeah, is there anybody like you struggle to keep up with?
Holy shit. Probably Cheech.
Cheech can pound him.
Cheech.
I remember one time Cheech, Ryan Christopher, and my friend Aaron Wapash, we sat inside Cheech's house for 3 days drinking beer. I remember that. It was when Brian Christopher came in for, who the hell did he go in for?
It's for CWE.
CWE.
Yeah.
There you go. He spent 3 days because he had a flight or whatever whatever the fuck it was. He was here for 3 days anyways. And we sat and we just like, we'd sit, drink, get up, drink some more, pass out, wake up, drink some more. And like Cheech was just like going. It was awesome.
Did you guys do the solid like Brian Christopher dance while you were drinking?
Oh, I
The
can't-
shovel?
I can't. I think we brought it up a couple of times and we were talking about
Yeah, didn't Aaron ask him to do the dance?
Yeah.
They told Aaron to fuck himself.
Yeah. Aaron's like, why don't you go up and do that shuffle dance? Like, Brian Christopher wasn't having it. Like, oh,
Aaron's a
how
fucking
would you
scary
get
dude,
up-
too.
how would you get up and go fuck yourself?
All right, you are asked pros and cons to working as a tag team rather than a solo act. Which do you prefer?
Tagging.
Is that because like you're lazy and want to share the work?
Partially, but
Yes, I love tag team.
partially, but another reason is there's so much more drama you can make with a tag team match as opposed to a singles match.
I
and
agree.
Yeah, I like tag better.
and working with you for so long, like that's when I really learned how to put together a tag match. And then when Chevy and I got together, because like I always made the comparison that Chevy was pro wrestling, like Chevy was agile and could work and could move and be there for everything, but I was sports entertainment. Like I was the cocky bullshit heel that could work a microphone.
Right.
And like we flowed so well together, and the fact that we just have a personal connection with both Aboriginal people, both from our parents from the same reserve, you know what I mean? So I think we just had that natural flow. So I really liked it.
I agree. You add so much more drama when you have more bodies in the ring to tell that story and create that drama going into a finish. As good as the Fabulous Cre Birds are, this guy must be drunk. Is there any chance of Shock and Awe reuniting?
If my neck was okay, yeah, definitely. I can't guarantee I'd wear the Shock and Awe gear because I'm
I don't know where my sports jacket is.
we had the Petro Canada jacket. We had the solid like red, white, and black
Yeah.
Petro Canada jackets.
When is the Fabulous Cre Bird shirts coming out?
Tell Finch to go
Tell
fuck
Finch
himself.
to fuck his hat.
Is it true you have a fondness for chickens, and is Kevy still dancing around North Dakota looking for someone to hug?
Yeah, we had chicken dipped into us when we were in
Yeah.
North Dakota. A young man named Cooter
Yeah.
took a rubber chicken, and Chevy had been knocked onto the ring steps, and I'd come up and try and hit Cooter from not attacking him, and then Cooter just kicked me in the balls and then put me on top of Chevy, and then stuck a rubber chicken.
Like it was like going back
Yeah,
and
like
forth?
up and down like this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like greasy styles like that.
Yeah.
That's Cooter, man. He's a pretty funny guy.
And finally, ask Chevy about his first match at the famous Teddy Bob's.
Oh, yeah, that's basically what
Maybe
I
we
touched.
told them.
Was that the Battle Royal?
Yeah,
or-
it's Battle Royale, yeah.
What was your actual first match?
Oh, my first match? That was the Battle Royale. My first match, like wrestling, like actual one-on-one, probably with Madman Muir and Teddy Bob's. He just ate me up for 5 minutes. I came out as Max Black. I had attacked him a couple of times to lead up to it. I attacked him a couple of times, and then then I wrestled him, and he just basically just beat me up. I was the big scary Aboriginal guy attacking this guy and fucking where I was wearing glasses and face paint for some weird fucking reason.
Like blackface?
Yeah, no,
Greasy.
not blackface, but like like handprints down the face or something.
Like
fucking
real
stupid.
power styles?
Yeah, something stupid like that. Anyways, so I was tagged Bad Bad Mirror for fucking 3 weeks, and then I wrestled him, and then I had no fucking ring presence. I just got eaten up and fucking tossed it aside. So that's my first match. And fucking
Can
taking
you bring us back in time and tell us about the time you beat up Mike Davidson? And is there any other wrestlers you have beaten up during your career?
I didn't beat up Mike Davidson. I smacked him in the mouth though. I was gonna beat him up.
Who stopped you?
Zach Mercury and fucking Gangrel stopped me. They stopped me because I fucking smacked him in the mouth and he took the bump on the floor and he was kind of like lost in himself and I was gonna stomp him on the fucking head. I was like, had my fucking leg popped up and I'm like, you motherfucking goof. And fucking, then fucking Mercury, Wheezy guys, don't fucking fight Mike, man, what are you doing? And fucking Gangrel fucking grabbed me and then fucking Mike gets up and he's like holding his face. Oh fuck. Why the fuck you hitting me? Fuck you.
Can I tell a quick story of Chevy kicking the fuck out of someone? Chevy and I bounced together for like a lot of years. So I'll tell you a quick story. There's this guy that's drinking in the bar and he's getting really mouthy with the waitresses. Chevy goes over and says, you know what, man, you've had enough, it's time to go. The guy said, fuck you. So this happens a few times to the guy, and then Chevy finally grabs him out of his chair, throws him on the ground, he's gonna drag him outside, and then a whole bunch, the bar's fucking packed. So a whole bunch of people, like, he can't get him out, so he just sits on him on the ground, and the guy's gonna grab a beer ball, and the beer ball he was drinking, and like smash him. So I fucking stomp the guy's hand like Ronnie Garvin styles. He fucking drops the beer bottle. Anyways, it starts to come down, I pull him off, I'm like, okay, let's just get this guy outside. So I take him outside, and I walk him out, I'm like, okay man, just go home, because he was cool with me. He's cool, man, just go home. So he goes to the back door. We go back to the front door, we're working the front door, and I can see down the hallway, this fucking goof is coming back into the front door. So I walk down the hallway, and I'm like, listen man, like, this big guy over here is gonna come over here and fuck your shit up, man. Get out of here. The guy, like, he's like, all right, man, yeah, I'm just gonna go home. And then he, like, psychs me out, and then he tries to walk by me. So I grab him, and I throw him to the ground, but it's like the first snowfall of the year. So I go out, I throw him to the ground, and I'm gonna go back inside and lock the door. And, like, just forget about him. So I step down after I throw him, and I bought these brand new shoes. They were like these red, like, basketball shoes. And they're really slippery bottom, so I step down to make sure that, like, he's okay and he didn't hit his head on the concrete or anything, and then I'm gonna go back inside. I step down off the step, my fucking feet go up from under me. I land, like, take a back bump on the cement, and this guy just tags me, bang! And he hits me in the side of the head, it felt like a mule kick. So, like, I get up, as I'm getting up, this guy fucking slips, and I tag him, bang, like that, and I grab him.
Like a shitty comedy.
Yeah, it's like a fucking comedy. And I grab him, and I'm on top of him, and I'm gonna just, like, pound his face into the mud, and then at this point, out of nowhere, this guy fucking body checks me, throws me out of the way, gets on top, and just goes. And this guy's fucking eye, like, just swells shut and turns into like a big purple donut. He gets up, he's like fucking walking like he's trying to walk up invisible stairs, like trying to get up and fucking walk away. And then the guy eventually leaves, and we go back inside, and Chevy's like selling, he's like, fuck. And then he like looks down at his hand, and his fucking hand looks pregnant. It's like broken. It's like a bubble. This guy fucking breaks his hand. Then another time, I don't know if the camera's gonna catch that, but I got a crooked finger for one time. I saw my goof's head too. But this guy kicked the shit out of that guy. Like, this guy looked like hamburger meat after we were done. It's fucking solid.
You're a tough guy in the business.
Well, that's a good note to take it home. Before we wrap it up, throw your social media handles at them. How can they reach you if they want to hit you up, have sex with you, or whatever it is they want to do after listening to this?
Don't do that. I have a whole bunch of stuff that you don't want. So I'm only on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. You can catch me at EverSickStefan. Stefan with an F.
And Chevy?
I'm at Kevin_Fontaine 1985 on Instagram, and I am also at Kevy_Chevy WPG on Twitter.
Not underscore. It's just Kevy Chevy.
Oh, just Kevy Chevy.
And you have about 9 Facebook profiles.
I have 9 Facebook
Yeah.
profiles. So.
They're all good. They're all good.
Well, that's going to wrap up another edition. Not that these boys do any wrapping up, but we're going to take it home, and we'll be back next week.